Live now to Prime Minister Boris Johnson's constituency in the west of London, where the count is about to begin. He has a slim majority of just over 5,000 votes, so it's not a given that the Prime Minister is going to secure his seat, but let's listen.
Independent, 69. Hughes David Stephen, commonly known as Lord Buckethead. The official Monster Raving Loony Party, 125. Burke Norma, Independent, 22. Courtney Jeffrey Dennis, UK Independence Party, 283. Humphreys Joanne Ilone, Liberal Democrats to Stop Brexit, 3,026. Johnson Alexander Boris de Pfeffel, commonly known as Boris Johnson, the Conservative Party candidate, 25,000. 25,351. Keir Mark Allen, Green Party, 1,090. Milani Ali Reza, Labour Party, 18,141. Smith Robert Jr., commonly known as Bobby Elmo Smith, 8. Tobin William John, 5. Utting Alfie John, Independent, 44. Jorgenstein Yace, commonly known as Yace Interplanetary Time Lord Jorgenstein, 23. The number of rejected ballot papers was 93, and I hereby declare that the said Boris Johnson is duly elected.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Acting Returning Officer. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very much. And listen, I don't want to tempt fate, because clearly lots of results are still coming in and we're still only dealing with projections. But at this stage, it does look as though this one nation Conservative government has been given a powerful new mandate to get Brexit done. And not just to get Brexit done, but to unite this country and to take it forward and to focus on the priorities of the British people and above all on the NHS. And yes, we will recruit 50,000 more nurses and 6,000 more GPs, and we will build 40 new hospitals. And I'm proud to say that one of those across the country, and one of those hospitals will be right here in Uxbridge and South Ruislip. And I'm grateful once again to the people of Uxbridge and South Ruislip for returning me to serve you. It is an absolute privilege to do this job and to work for you. And I thank once again the police, the council, everybody who's worked so hard all night to count for us, the returning officers. I thank my fellow candidates in all their glory, Lord Buckethead and others, Elmo and others. Forgive me if I don't identify them all. But above all, I want to thank the people of this country for turning out to vote in a December election that we didn't want to call, but which I think has turned out to be a historic election that gives us now, in this new government, the chance to respect the democratic will of the British people, to change this country for the better, and to unleash the potential of the entire people of this country. And that is what we will now do, and if we are lucky enough to be returned, as the exit polls seem to suggest, then that work will begin tomorrow. Thank you all very much. Or rather, I should say not tomorrow, today. Today. Thank you all. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
So Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party, more than doubling his majority in his own constituency, a vote emphatically in favour of his Get Brexit Done message, a simple message that seems at this point to have resonated around the country because the Conservative Party are predicted to get a landslide victory, a majority of something like 86 seats in a 650-seat parliament, which, of course, will allow Boris Johnson and the Conservative Party to do pretty much what they like. First things first, of course, will be Brexit. Jonah Hull is our correspondent covering all of this. And, Jonah, interesting that Boris Johnson, with his magnificent new majority in his constituency, spent quite a bit of time trying to pivot and deal with the issue of domestic public services, which, of course, many people have accused him of neglecting in favour of the Brexit message.
Yes, absolutely. He was drawn into that debate very much, wasn't he, by the Labour Party and Jeremy Corbyn, who were keen to refocus attention away from Brexit. That didn't work for Labour. Boris Johnson was criticised for not spending enough time in his own constituency. There were concerns that he might lose his own seat. That would have been pretty extraordinary. But there you saw him capping what has been an extraordinary night for the Conservative Party by winning handsomely in Uxbridge and South Ruislip. A historic election, he said, that we didn't want to call a chance to respect the democratic will of the people. Let me bring in Emma Hayward, our reporter. She's standing by in the constituency. She was there listening to Boris Johnson. Emma, relief, I imagine, all round, and the celebrations, I think, will very shortly get underway, won't they?
Yeah, a decisive win for Boris Johnson here. He is still up on the stage listening to the other candidates there. A decisive win, as I say, 25,351 votes. The nearest candidate, the Labour candidate, who many thought might even beat Boris Johnson, got 18,141 votes. And in his acceptance speech, Boris Johnson said the result gave him the greatest powerful mandate to get Brexit done. He talked about new hospitals, but he also said this national result would unleash the entire potential of the country. Brexit has dominated this election from the get-go. It's dominated politics here for the past 3.5 years. And Boris Johnson's message to get Boris done, to finally get it over the line, seems to have really resonated with voters, as the results show tonight.
And, of course, he was up against a pretty determined Remain alliance with a strong challenge from a young Labour Party candidate. So much for the whole idea of tactical voting, Emma.
Yes, tactical voting was seen as a big issue in this election. 2 million, I think, was talked about as the figure of people who were going to vote tactically in different seats as they would normally do. People voting in different ways this time. That, I think, has been one of the defining things of tonight. People who would normally vote Labour in those Labour heartlands, whose families have voted for generations for Labour, have turned Tory. And it was unthinkable. In places like Workington, it is such a surprise. Well, it's not so much of a surprise, but it is such a turnaround in places like that for people to turn their backs on Labour and vote Conservative, because it goes against the grain in those kind of places.
I know. And, Emma, not just a big loss for Labour tonight, but Jo Swinson, we're hearing in East Dunbartonshire, has lost her seat as well, the Liberal Democrat leader. So bad news for opposition parties, all except, of course, the Scottish National Party in Scotland. But really, I mean, an absolutely resounding victory for the Conservatives. You're right there watching them. You've been with their activists in that constituency seat. They must be absolutely delighted.
I think they will be absolutely thrilled. I was talking to a couple of them earlier who said they had every faith that Boris Johnson would win here, even if it was by one vote, that he would gain a majority. And I think that has been felt throughout the country, actually. I think the size of the vote tonight has surprised many, because the polls just didn't suggest that it would be that great a loss for Labour. But Jeremy Corbyn has said, hasn't he, that he won't campaign again in a general election. And Labour, obviously, now will probably have to do some soul-searching to try to win back those Labour heartlands that were so important to them up until tonight.
OK, Emma, thanks. We'll leave it there for the moment.